So in this video, I'm going to talk about healthy eating on the go, and later in the video, I'm going to share some examples and different things you can do. So you're eating better, smarter whilst you're on the go. So there's a couple of things to check first before you do start to dive into this and before I share my screen up. So the first thing I would check is, are you actually hungry? Is this habit? Often people will stop at a petrol station, a service station, and as you're queuing up to pay for the petrol, you see all these things there and suddenly you think, oh, actually, am I hungry? It might be the Percy Pigs, it could be the Kit Kat Chunky, it could be something else, but the way these shops are laid out, they want you to buy these things as you're sort of queuing up. So the first thing to check is actually, am I hungry? Am I bored? That is an option. If you've been driving a long way on your own, motorway driving, often it's boredom eating. You stop off at the services, you have something there. So that's the first thing I would check. The second thing I would check, again, when you're driving, you tend not to drink quite enough because you just don't have it with you. And secondly, you don't want to keep stopping for the toilet. So we can often confuse hunger with thirst. Our bodies do confuse the two. So it's really important to stay well hydrated. Now, I'm not suggesting you drink gallons and gallons and gallons because, you're going to be stopping for the toilet. But a bit of preparation for this is if you can build up your water over time, and there's a video at the end which I can sort of link you to here in how you can do that in smarter ways. But if you can build that water up over time, you will be able to take on the right amount of water and not have those frequent visits to the toilet, or as frequent. But as I say, that's covered in a separate video. So those are the two things I'd check. Is it habit or boredom eating? Am I actually hungry? Is it thirst? Because again, it could be that. Now, before I show up my screen, this sort of eating for me is, for anyone that's worked with me, I always say to create that balance, let's look at the routine and make the routine, and then we can afford to have the fun. It creates that balance so you can do that. This sort of eating where you're on the go, you're driving from A to B, or you're out and about, just doing whatever it is you do for a living. For me, this is routine eating. So this doesn't need to be gourmet. It doesn't need to be fantastic. Should still be enjoyable, but ultimately it serves a purpose, and you'll sort of get that with the things that I share up here. So let me share up my screen. Okay, so you walk into any sort of petrol station, anywhere where there's like meal deals or any supermarket, you'll find things like this. So when I'm looking across a diet, when I'm looking at someone's food diet, for example, within my program, what I'm looking for is plenty of protein, a high amount of protein in the diet, plenty of fruits and veg in there, and then a healthy amount of carbohydrate. Now, it depends on how you structure your day, but for me, I tend to have sort of my carbier meal in the evening. So throughout the day, I'm a bit more mindful of what I'm having there. That could be the same for you. If that's the main sort of family meal in the evening when you get home, that might be more sort of potato, pasta, pizza, any of those sort of things, more sort of carby based, then maybe that's something you need to consider as well here. There's lots of reasons why high protein, lots of veg and stuff is is good for you and helps with weight loss, helps with health, but we won't go into that in this video. We'll just sort of go through the options. So let's have a look. Yep, something like this. Obviously a sort of salad with some ham in there, some eggs, really, really low calorie. There's a little bit of protein in there as well. It, again, serves a purpose, does what it's supposed to do. Another option would be these sort of packaged pasta salads. Now, these are slightly higher in calorie, but they're going to fill you up a little bit more. There's a bit more something to them. But even with this one here, a packet, 333 is nothing. It's so low. That is a good option there. And again, looking at the protein, decent amount of protein in there. So, I'm quite happy with that. Continuing on, you've got things like wraps as well. And again, these are options, but just be aware that there's different caveats with different things. So this is a sweet chili chicken. So, something to watch out for on the packaging here would be the fact there's, quite a lot of sugar in that. 400 calories, so it's not off the scale, it's not a huge amount. But is that enough? Is that going to fill you up? Is that going to satisfy? Or is it a case of actually you're going to then buy the bag of crisps with it, the drink with it as well as part of that meal deal or whatever it comes with. So before you know it, that sort of on-the-go food can very quickly stack up. But something to be aware of there. We've got chicken and bacon Caesar wrap. Again, quite a popular choice. Again, mindful of the calories here. Although the sugar's low, the fat is high because Caesar sauce generally is quite high in fat. So again, things to be aware of depending on what your sort of dietary preference is and how you're sort of taking that. But these sort of pre-packaged things are options in terms of like the salads, the pasta salads, the wraps, even the sandwiches. Again, just look at the packaging, just think about it. Think about, is that enough? Is that going to do what I want it to do? I will try and avoid being over reliant on things like just bread, because if you're having bread every single day, it's quite stodgy, it's quite bloating, it's generally not that good for you. So in terms of the routine stuff, there are better options out there. Now, if you go to a slightly bigger supermarket, even some of the small ones, you can get pre-packaged chicken, things like this. So this is a tikka style chicken, so it's not going to be just boring and bland. It's a couple of quid for that full packet there. So it's not a bank breaker, but looking at it down here, so a third of the pack, 100 calories, let's say, so 300 calories in that pack, and yeah, you're getting a lot of protein in that. So that's going to fill you up. Again, it's going to serve that purpose. It's healthy, it's low calorie. Your protein levels that day is going to shoot through the roof, eating a packet of that, for example. Obviously, there's other options, things like this, something with a bit more flavour to it, slightly pricier, but again, similar sort of thing. Looking here, a packet of that, 250 calories, you're going to get 40 grams of protein out of that packet. Not dissimilar to things like protein bars in terms of pricing that you might find on the shelves, or these sort of other protein products, but we'll get into that shortly. Now, you'll find even things like this are good. They're not always the most cost effective. If you're looking at per 100 gram, if you're trying to eat healthy and it's something you're regularly going to be buying, it's cheaper to go for something like this rather than the sort of branded refrigerators or something like that. But they are an option, and they are better than, it's better than a Mars bar, isn't it? Let's be honest. Now, moving on to things like protein bars, and these could be like your grenade bars, all these different things. There's loads of different ones out there. Now, I have covered protein bars in a video before, I do believe, and if I haven't, then again, it'll be on my list to do so. I have covered it for some clients of mine, so I might be mixing it up with that. But looking at them, look at the packaging, look at what's in them. Generally, a bit of a rule of thumb, if it's plastered with protein on the side, doesn't mean it's necessarily a healthy product, so bear that in mind. Pick it up, have a look at it. So this one, for example, for that bar, it's a 50 gram bar, so let's find the nutrition. So we're going to have to half this down, but looking at that, half of that, terrible maths, 270 odd calories in that bar alone. 8.5 grams of sugar, and you're getting 11.5 grams of protein, which isn't too bad, but it's a very small bar. So you've got to think, actually, is it worth that 270 odd calories? Is it worth that amount of sugar for that small bar? Or are you going to want something else with it? And again, that's going to start to push your calories up. So across the day, you're consuming a lot more. Another example of that, naked bar here, similar sort of principle. Again, just looking at the packaging, just making sure, like, this is a 45 gram bar, so it's still roughly half in it, but there is a lot of sugar in that. 12.5 grams of sugar in that little bar alone. 8 grams of protein, so not the greatest, but not terrible. And then you're looking at 210 calories for that bar. So I would tend to avoid these things. That they can be used, and I'm not totally against them, but just be aware of which ones you are buying. Try and buy the better ones. The issue I have with these is, that little bar isn't just going to fill me up, and if that's all I needed just to sort of get me through, for me, I'm not really that hungry. I don't need to buy it, at the shop on the way, midway through my journey. Some more examples of different sort of protein branded products, like these, for example. So that's a pouch of yogurt that you could have on the go. So, again, you can probably find those in the bigger shops, the smaller shops. Again, just look on the side. Just be aware of what's in them. So per serving, 137 calories for that full yogurt. 200 grams of it isn't bad. It's a good size yogurt. Loads of protein for that. Sugar's not too bad. Lower side. Let's check another one out. So looking at this one, so this one's a slightly bigger product, 300 grams. Again, let's have a look on the side. So it's got it in per serving, which is helpful. So slightly more calories, but not dissimilar. But there is more sugar in this one. Now, if you read the description, it is naturally occurring sugars. It is a no added sugar product. But again, just be aware of that. If you are monitoring your sugars or trying to keep them down, just be aware of the fact that that protein yogurt, you're getting a lot of sugar from that. Good amount of protein, again, in there. Now, finally, Things like nuts, mixed nuts like that, for example. I tend to avoid these for sort of on-the-go things, and not because nuts are unhealthy. They're not. You get lots of good nutrition from nuts in moderation, but that's the key here. If you buy that packet, if you stick that in the door of your car, on the dashboard, center console, wherever it might be, and you're driving along, it's very easy just to graze and just sort of keep nibbling away at that. Now that bag there is 200 grams. Now you might not eat that full pack, but let's say you eat half that pack. That 158 calories is for an eighth. So if you eat half that bag, you're looking over 600 calories consumed just from that bag of nuts there. Now there'll be other nutrition you do get from that, but that is a lot of calories, and that's going to potentially push you into that sort of surplus in terms of the calories. So like I said, different options are available. It doesn't have to be expensive to eat healthy on the go. These things, they're not bank breakers. A couple of quid for a pasta salad there. Obviously you can buy them in bulk if you've got some way of storing them. Even things like this, if you can find a Lidl or an Aldi or something like that, some of the sort of cheaper supermarkets, it'll be even cheaper for you, and you can buy yourself a packet of chicken like that, a couple of apples, an apple, an orange, a banana, those sort of things. So again, just think a little bit differently. I don't know the price of a sort of Tesco meal deal at the moment, £3.50, £4, something like that. You can buy some chicken there, and then you could have some fruit at the side of that. That serves a purpose. You're getting high protein, you're getting plenty of fruit in your diet. For me, that's a real easy win-win. Now, a big easy win here is preparation. If you know you're going to be on the road, bring things from home. You can prepare your own sort of salads if you want to. You can prepare your own wraps and have less of the sort of unhealthy dressings in there. There's loads of things you can do, but if you are caught short, if you are out and about, if you are actually hungry, if it's not boredom and it's not thirst, hopefully this is giving you some sort of options there of different things you can do whilst you're on the go. Hopefully that's giving you some inspiration of how you can sort of turn those routine meals, on the go into something a little bit healthier, something that serves that better purpose for you. Now, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel if you found this video helpful. And I mentioned the water video. It's just right here.